Welcome to a new episode of The Good Talk here in studio, West Coast Creative Studio. Today we have Amir Yas.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I love it in here. It's so nice.
Yeah, what do you think of the studio?
I love it. I want to live in here. It's nice.
I pretty much live in here. I'm here all the time. And it's pretty nice. It's comfy. You know, we have a couch on that side. People can hang out. We haven't used that side of the room yet for podcasting, though. So I'm excited to experiment and do different things on that side of the room. But yeah, this whole studio is incredible. It's brand new. So it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to have you, actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm back. I got my notes here.
You need your notes, your handy notes.
I kind of need my notes. Yeah. You know, I just started doing podcasting not too long ago. So I'm brand new at this. So I definitely need my notes. But I know you've done this before and you had a podcast in the past. So maybe you can give me some tips towards the end of that episode.
I can't tell that you're new at this.
No?
You're doing great.
Okay, great.
You're doing great.
Besides me forgetting my notes.
That's okay. Fake it till you make it. That's what I always say. You got to just start somewhere.
That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do out here in LA.
It's fine.
Fake it till you make it, kids.
It works.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with getting to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
So I want to know, and I'm sure the audience wants to know who you are and what you do. So give us a little bit more information about you.
So basically, if you've been on TikTok or Instagram, you've seen me. I'm one of the first gay Muslims. So I was really big, especially during the pandemic. I was just like out there. And now there's a lot of more queer Muslims, but at that time it was very shocking. So I would get a lot of death threats and angry messages. And it was just like, so I would play into it and I would just mess with people. And I think that humor like translated to the audience. I grew up in Orange County, so I'm a little far from LA. But when I moved here when I was 18, I was like, I don't know, something about LA. The celebrities, the culture, pop culture, I just like fell in love with all of it. And I've loved it since. I mean, I love it.
So you moved from Orange County to LA. Mm-hmm. How was that transition from there? I mean, it's not like a huge like move, but
it's like a different country, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for a lot of people that come to Orange County, they're like, what is going on? It's so different. It's so, like, there's no industry people. There's no, like, everyone's just, like, an accountant, like, with 2.5 kids, a white picket fence. It's just not my vibe. Like, I wanted something
nice.
It's nice, but I wanted something different. Like, when I moved to LA, the first week I was here, I saw a man wearing a wedding dress walking down the street. I was like, this place is amazing. Like, it's so wackadoo. You can be whatever you want and people could care less. Whereas in Orange County, people are very involved in your business and what are you doing? But LA, like, people don't care.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
Yeah, you can literally do whatever you want in this city, right?
I love it.
It's crazy. So you're from Orange County. And then when did you move to LA?
So, oh my God, I'm going to age myself for all you out there. I'm 38 and I'm proud. But I moved to LA when I was 2004. So I went to USC. So 2004, it was like, LA was so different. I don't know. It was it's crazy.
It's way different back. I moved here in 2013 and it's a lot different now than it is now.
It is,
it's
for
not
sure.
the same, to be quite honest.
It's not. But you know what I love about LA? Like, I go to New York a lot and other states in America. Like, there's nothing like a melting pot here. There's so many different cultures. There's so many different types of food. There's so many like little pockets of neighborhoods and you just don't have that anywhere else. So I don't really see myself living anywhere else because obviously the taxes, blah, blah, blah. And it's been raining a lot. So I'm like, this is not worth our taxes. But I just can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah, me either. I've been here for over 10 years, but I don't know. Texas is looking pretty nice right now, man.
Especially Austin.
Everyone's
so nice.
moving to Texas, you know, and you're into comedy as well, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think Texas is becoming like the hub for comedy now. It's crazy. I think it used to be LA. Mm-hmm. Now the tides are shifting.
I know.
But
I've seen that.
Yeah, so let's talk about TikTok because you have a viral video trend that you pretty much came up with, right? Mm-hmm. And do you think you get the credit for that?
I don't think so. I mean, sometimes I feel, especially in the beginning, I was like, I want credit. But then I was just happy that people were sharing. So I posted a video from Real Housewives of New Jersey. For anyone who doesn't know, I love like Bravo, Housewives, anything. I'm like obsessed. So I posted this video. I thought it was funny. It's like a little girl singing, waking up in the morning. And she's singing, I mean, it's not very funny, but she's singing about her parents' divorce. It's like sad. She's waking up in the morning and then she's like crying. It's not funny, but I thought it was funny. And I have a weird, dark sense of humor. So I posted it and I said, that's Trump like leaving the White House. I thought it was funny. I don't know. It made me laugh. So I posted it in January, maybe like, I think it had like 100K.
January of what year?
2021, I think. Yeah, 2021 or 2021. So I posted it because that's when he had left the White House. Yeah. So 2021. And then like literally like 3 months went by and nothing happened. Like it got like 100K, which is not bad, but nothing like the viral that all of a sudden overnight. I literally woke up and I had like missed calls from all these news outlets. I had like I mean, it hit 13 million views, and then people were reposting it, and their videos were taking off. Like Will Smith posted it, Joey King, a bunch of celebrities. I think Addison Rae might have reposted it. People were like loving the viral audio.
Yeah, and you have an impressive TikTok following.
I do. I mean, it's not like my views are a lot more than my followers,
which I think that's the way it should be.
Really?
I do. Okay. I think views are better than just followers.
I agree. Because what are you have like
that's kind of engagement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you want? Like a bunch of followers? People always say, I want 1 million followers. I'm like, for what? Are they engaging with your content? And mine were. They comment, they like, they follow me around. So like, I don't know. I feel like it's good, you know? So I don't get a lot of credit for that. And obviously it wasn't me in the video. It's that little girl. And then she got like a clothing brand deal. That little girl grew up and she got all these like...
Because of you.
Because of me. And I never got credit. And it was on New Jersey. They do reunions like at the end of every season of Housewives. And they literally talked about it and still didn't get credit. I'm like, dude, but you know, Us Weekly, Cosmopolitan, BuzzFeed, they all gave me credit, which is cool. People were calling me the wrong name, but still I got credit. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah. But that's cool, man. I mean,
thank you.
It's your video that got a ton of views.
Yeah.
Right? How many views did it get?
So all together with everyone's reposting, it was almost 500 million views. So
wow. Did that maybe like affect you? And I know you didn't get the credit you wanted, but did that like help your career or what did it do for you?
It did. I mean, I ended up doing like 30 or 40 podcasts after that. I ended up doing Heather McDonald's podcast. She's a big comedian. So when I was on it, like I would have never been invited on that had I not gotten that viral video. And she was like, I mean, it was crazy because I went on there and then I made a little joke about Michael B. Jordan. I had worked with him in the past and that kind of went viral. So I kind of learned my lesson. I honestly, if it was not the pandemic, I think I would have been like indoors because like people were like, I mean, I was getting death threats. People were coming for me. They were saying that I outed him. I mean, it was insane. People started I Hate Amir groups on TikTok. Yeah.
That's how you know you're doing something right.
I know. I was like, you hate on me, but I'm like out here like getting, you know, I got a lot of brand deals out of it. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
And it was just a joke. I never said him and I were together. If I had slept with Michael B. Jordan, believe me, I wouldn't tell anyone. I would have kept that to myself.
I don't think he would tell anyone either.
I would oh, thanks a lot. That's mean.
No, it's not.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but
because he's not gay, I'm saying.
No, yeah, exactly.
Maybe secretly. I don't know.
No, you don't know. Listen,
don't know.
A lot of people got upset. But it was just a joke. I mean, it was in my own head. I was like, we had a moment. It was a complete joke. But, you know, things like, and it was a lesson for me, even as a publicist, to learn that like people, like you say things and it like kind of goes like wildfire. You can't really control it, you know?
Because you're a comedian, so you know you say jokes. Is there like a line that you won't cross, or where's that line at for you?
I think the line for me is like, you know, I always tell like my friends that are comedians that are trying to get into it, I'm like, it's low hanging fruit to make fun of people like that are like don't need you to step on them. Like you're never gonna hear me make a joke about trans people or queer people unless it's funny. Like, I'm never going to just be like, I don't like trans people. Like, it's not funny. So if you're going to be creative, if you want to make fun of gay people, like people go up, oh, he's gay. Not funny.
Yeah.
But be creative. Like, so find a way like to be like, oh, that gay guy is so gay, even drag queens won't hang out with him. See, that's funny.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's pretty funny.
That you can be
because you're
funny.
hitting at the personality now.
Hit at the personality and I always say punch up, not punch down. Again, it's easy to punch down. It's easy to make fun of women. It's easy to make fun of like disabled people. It's like punch up. Like find a way to be funny, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe you can give us some tips on how to write a good joke. Like, what would you give me? Like, what kind of advice would you give me if I want to start maybe being a comedian? Or how would I write a joke?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, don't just like walk on stage and assume because you're funny online or you're funny, like you do some
around
like
my
joke
friends.
Video. No, like you have to write these jokes out. And even when it seems like conversational, because I've had friends come to shows and they're like, oh, did you just write this joke in the Uber? I'm like, no, like it looks conversational, but I've written these out and I've tested them and it's like, you have to workshop it. So the first way is like to have a beginning, middle, and an end. You always have to like kind of bring people in. You have to say the punchline quickly. People don't care about it was Wednesday, it was Tuesday. People get stuck on these stupid details. Nobody cares. They want you to get to the point, but also you don't want to have like 400 punchlines because then it's like cheesy. It's like knock jokes. Yeah. So have a story and you also have to live. So if you're like someone who's like shy or wallflower, go live. Go on some bad dates. It's fucking funny. Go on some bad dates. Go on some
and
like
take
I don't
from
know.
that.
Take from that. Take from your real life because it's always going to be funnier. Yeah. Something to you that might be like, oh, my aunt's like really racist. People are like, oh, whatever. But it's funny because when you say it, it's funny.
Okay.
You know?
So if you were to help me write a joke right now, let's say about myself, right? How would we go about it? Like let's try to like workshop a little joke here that I can say.
Workshop a joke.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to tell me a little bit more, like what, I guess you have to see like what makes you tick. Like, is there anything funny from your childhood? Is there anything like those stuff is always funnier. Like,
yeah, now I have to think about this.
like for me, like it's my dad, right? His name is Jafar. It's already funny, right? You grow up, you're the Middle Eastern kid in school. Your dad's name is Jafar, Aladdin. It's like ridiculous, right? Yeah. And then you go into TSA and he's like, take your MTV t-shirt off. We're going to get screened. We're probably going to get screened because we're Middle Eastern and your name's Jafar and nothing to do with my t-shirt, right? So see how that's like funny? It's from my childhood, like finding stuff like that, stuff that you get made fun of, like I do a joke where I talk about like changing, right? Going to the individual bathroom to change during pee, and I always say I created gender neutral bathrooms. It's funny because I just didn't want people to see that I was fat, like so I would go hide in the bathroom. But I'm like, okay, so I use what's current. Bringing the current in with the old is always funny.
Okay, so I got to think about that, and I got to like
ruminate.
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back. Yeah,
yes,
we'll come back.
But let's go back to your career and your journey. You were a publicist,
sure.
So let's talk about that. How did you even get into that job, being a publicist?
So I applied to USC under pharmacy because my parents are, I'm Persian and they're very Middle Eastern, old school. They're like, you have to do something medical, blah, blah, blah. So I applied for pharmacy. I took one chemistry class and I was like, nope. So I dropped that. And then they had an entertainment PR class that came with like an internship. And you got to work with celebrities. And I was like obsessed with celebrities. So I would like read Us Weekly, like cover to cover. They used to have this thing called Celebrities Are Just Like Us, for anyone who knows. And it'd be like, celebrities, they pump gas. They drink Coca-Cola. And I always remember being like, oh my God, I do that stuff. Like, I'm a celebrity. Like, so I was just like dying because I was like, this internship would be amazing. And so I got to like intern. And I mean, obviously I like did just grunt work, but this company would do events and there'd be celebrities. So we did like, LA Fashion Week, and then like Paris Hilton was there and I got to meet her. So it was just like from that experience. I mean, again, I was doing like bitch work, but it was just, I was so happy to be there. And for anyone who wants to get into entertainment, like, you're going to do a lot of bitch work for a very long time.
It's like the film industry. You got to do a PA. You got to do the grunt work.
You have to
move up.
You have to. And you just have to be happy to be there. I know that's like very boomer advice. I don't want to be like an old man being like, you should be happy. Don't like be disrespected. But at the same time, you cannot, unless you have like a dad that's a producer, like a Nepo baby. Otherwise, you're not going to get in. You have to do the grunt work.
Yeah, I think nowadays people are just so entitled and they just kind of want to skip all the hard work, right? Yeah, and like you said, like the boomers, right? Like back in my day,
but it worked.
Yeah,
they did the work. Like, and again, I understand that like opportunities were easier come sometimes then, and there's less competition. But like I said, like, for me, I wanted to be a publicist, and I kind of made it happen. And again, my dad is like in electronics, and my mom's like a yoga teacher. They did not help me get anywhere. Like, I had to do it all on my own. And you have to kind of claw and scratch your way and be bold. Like, I DM people even now, and I'm like, can you help me? And they're like, how do we know each other? I'm like, I don't know, from Instagram. Like, you have to be kind of bold. And listen, when I had a podcast, I'd message like 10,000 people. 100 would respond. Out of that would be like 60 or 70 guests. So the numbers are not ever going to be in your favor, but
it's a numbers game.
Who cares?
Yeah.
No one's ever going to know.
Yeah. So what is the life of a publicist like? And tell us a little bit of the people you worked with, maybe some of your favorites, not so favorites.
Oh no, I feel bad piling on her, but I have a not so favorite, but we'll get to that.
Let's start with the not favorite.
Not favorite. Okay, so I mean, I worked with J-Lo, so she's quite difficult, but that's not like, if you've been on TikTok recently, like she's kind of getting piled on. Like, people always say she's very difficult. So
diva, she's a diva.
She's a diva. We had to put a belt on a flight. I mean, she wanted a belt because she was doing Good Morning America. She wanted us to put a belt on a flight. We had to buy a ticket for an item of clothing. Mind you, I'm getting paid like cents on the dollar, and she wants us to get like a $3,000 ticket for a belt. She didn't wear it, by the way. So this is a level of difficulty in this industry where people, I think they sometimes do it just to stand out. But again, on the flip side, I've worked with Michael B. Jordan, Donald Glover, Melissa McCarthy. Donald Glover would make his own latte. That's not his job. That was our job. Like, he'd come to the office, make his own latte. He'd like buy lunch for everyone. I mean, he was just so gracious.
So Glover
nice.
goes on the good list.
So nice.
Yeah.
Like, so nice. Kardashian's also nice. I mean, I'm
Kardashians
so
really
nice. So
you
respectful.
would think Kardashians would be like divas too.
Professional. I've worked with all of them multiple times, and super nice, super down to earth, very professional, always on time, never drunk, never on drugs, because that happens a lot. Obviously, I'm not going to say any of those people because I feel
tell
us shady. Because I feel bad, but there's a lot of people that show up really drunk or like on like many drugs or want us to get them drugs. I mean, that's another part of being a publicist. They want you to like get them a date. They want you to get them drugs, and I'm like, these things are illegal. Like, I can't do that. And also, when you're a publicist, like for anyone that wants to do that, you have to really love it. Like, I really loved it. I loved the brands I worked with. I loved doing events. I love doing, like, we do the Oscars, the Golden Globes, we do gifting suites. I loved all of it, but it's a lot of BS. It's a lot of like crazy people, huge egos. So you have to really love it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, you know, and it's full time. Like my relationship fell apart. You're working all day and then you're going to events all night. Like you're constantly working.
And you're traveling a lot
all
too,
the
right?
time.
Yeah.
All the time. You're traveling with them. You're with them. They call you. They're like, I just got in a car accident. Can you get me a new car? I just did Can you pick me up? And there was no Uber. So they'd be like, I'm drunk. Can you pick me up? And of course, you're their publicist. You're not going to let them drive drunk and then it'd be on, you know.
So you're just babysitting them?
Basically. Or they'd be like, I'm lonely. Can you come over?
So you're like their therapist.
I'm like their therapist. Yeah. It was a lot of that. And then you know everything about them. You know all of their routing numbers. You know, like literally like everything. So their doctors.
It's like an executive assistant. Basically. They're like, hey, I need this, and that. And you're like, okay.
They'll get whatever. And well, you know, a lot of them have an assistant. They have a manager. They have an agent. But like the publicists, they feel most comfortable with. But the weird thing is whenever their career starts to stall, they always fire us first. Because
it's your fault.
It's your fault because they're paying us out of pocket, whereas the agent, manager, executive assistant are getting a percentage of something. Like we're getting paid out of pocket, so they always dump us, which sucks. So I'm like, hello, I know all of your secrets. I remember a client fired us, and I'm like, I know what your dick looks like. I've seen it because I literally know your what do they call a dick doctor? Oh my god, what do they call? I don't know. What do they call it?
I don't know.
I can't remember what
the dick doctor.
What's a dick doctor? Anyway, but I'm like, I know everything about you. It's weird that you would fire us. We literally have your account numbers. Like. It's an interesting industry for sure.
Yeah. So would you recommend like someone young, up and coming to get into that?
You gotta love it. I mean,
what do you gotta love about it?
You gotta love the industry. You gotta love celebrities. You gotta love pop culture because they're ridiculous. They go to a restaurant, order everything on the menu, and then walk out. I'm like, my love, we have to pay. They're like, can you just pay? I'm like, it's $5,000.
Wait, can you pay like out of your?
They want me to pay, and then I get reimbursed. But I'm like, there's a lack of. Oh, they go to a store, pick everything up, and then walk out. I'm like, we need to pay. Yeah. Like there's just they're tone deaf. They're out of touch. You have to be okay with that.
Do certain celebrities have like multiple publicists?
Yeah, they have. So
or do you have like an assistant that helps you? How does that work?
Yeah. We had assistants that would help us, and then we had multiple publicists. So someone like Michael B. Jordan would have like an agent, a manager, and then multiple publicists. And then some of them would get crisis PR. Let's say they were getting divorced, or they got caught like I don't know Hugh Grant with like a sex worker, like stuff like that. That's crisis PR. So they bring in someone. I don't know if you saw that show Scandal. It was like a Shonda Rhimes show. So she was a crisis PR. So whenever anything crazy would happen, we'd help them hire someone. But we didn't do crisis PR. We just prevented them from like the whole Justin
ruining
Timberlake
their
thing.
lives.
If you get like a DUI, we would prevent that from being anywhere. Like we would really try to but you can't nowadays because people have social media and there's phones. Yeah. But when I was doing it, we would like call that department and be like, okay, please don't let this leak. We will pay all the fines. We try to hush a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. So for example, Justin Timberlake just got arrested for DWI, I believe.
Yeah.
So would you blame his publicist for that?
Well, I mean, obviously that was kind of dumb. Like that he tried to then be like, I'm going to be on tour and stuff, trying to get out of it. The publicist is not to blame for something like that. But again, it's just so hard now to cover stuff up. If it was 10 years ago, you could really cover stuff up because we have all these moles and we know everyone everywhere. And we're like, okay, don't let this leak because it's so damaging for your career. Again, Justin Timberlake will probably be fine in the long run. But for a newer person, it could really kind of ruin your career. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And so you were a publicist for how long?
15 years? Yeah, 15 years.
That's a long time. So you must have worked with a ton of different people.
I mean, towards the end of my career, like the last 5-6 years, it was mainly brands because I got sick of the celebrities. Yeah. I'm like, stop calling me. I'm on vacation. They call me on vacation and be like, I want something from the gift shop. I'm like, call it on the hotel. They don't have boundaries. That's the problem. And they're so nice. And that's why a lot of celebrities become friends with their publicists. And you see them traveling together because they it's like they're a family.
Yeah. I mean, they're relying on you to get stuff for them.
Yes.
And basically just live their life.
Yeah.
That's
do everything
crazy.
for them. And be in their house. Like I was in Michael B. Jordan's house all the time with his family, waiting for packages. He lived his life and I was just there. I was just like his family.
Was his house cool?
His house was cool. Yeah. But it was funny. People would deliver, funny or not. I mean, he thought it was dumb, but people would deliver pizzas to him, but he's Michael Jordan. So we would get a lot of fan mail, especially from Japan, that would draw these intricate photos of Michael Jordan. I'm like, he's not Michael Jordan. It's Michael B. Jordan. So you get a lot of, every week we get 10 or 15 pizzas delivered to the house as a joke or I don't know what it was. It was bizarre.
So you got free pizza all the time?
All the time. It was so bizarre. It was just really bizarre. But then there was things where you're like, okay, I know this is Michael B. Jordan's house because he had talked to he lived in, at that time in the Valley, and he had gotten a permit where people couldn't park in front of his house. So you'd walk up and it'd be like the nicest house on the block with no one parked in front of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
this looks like a celebrity's house.
So do you stay friends with these like celebrities, or because you're their publicist and you're close with them? So what happens after you're done working with them? Is there like a relationship?
Not really. I mean, it kind of like, it's like if I see them, they'll know me and they're like, hi, how are you? But it's not like we're friends. Like, and I don't, Michael B. Jordan probably doesn't want to see me now after all that came out. But like, but other ones, I mean, I've seen other celebrities that like, I'm like, oh, hi. It's like friendly, but I'm not really friends. It's
But
more
there's
the
no
problem.
one that kind of like kept that relationship with you just because, you were there for them that entire time.
No, I also tried to keep it professional, even though they were like a lot more familiar. They didn't really know a lot about my life. I kept things very separate. And like a lot of them would be like, oh, it's your birthday. Like, I want to give you a gift. I'd be like, no. So I tried to keep it separate because I also knew like that I eventually would want to leave that job or they would want to leave. So I just tried to keep it very professional.
Yeah. Okay. So then the last 4 or 5 years, you were kind of over it. Sounds like. Yeah. So what did you do? How did your career pivot after that?
Yeah, so around 2019, I started doing commercial work. So I was doing auditions while I was like at work. And I think my boss started to realize like, you took a 3-hour lunch, like, so I would go to auditions and I think she was like, what the heck? So I quit, I think around December of 2019. And then I started working for Maria Menounos, who she does like podcast recap. So I learned a lot about how to recap a show, how to talk on the fly, how to like do 1-minute promos, sometimes 30-second promos. I learned how to talk very quickly, but like hit all the points. I think that helped a lot with TikTok.
So is that when you started kind of getting into the podcasting world? Okay, so then you pivoted into that job. And then when did you start your podcast? Because you had a podcast.
I did.
And what was the show called? The Take On, right?
The Take On, yeah. So that came a little bit after. So around February 2020, there was like a girl that was very Gen Z. And she was like, you're old, you're getting on TikTok. And I was like, no. So then we did a TikTok where it was crazy because that was around the time that Tom Hanks got COVID. And it was like, we did a video where we were like, oh my God, Tom. And we were running around like doing Forrest Gump audios. It's insane. But it like kind of went from my profile at that time viral because I had like 100 followers and then I hit like 5,000-6,000. So I was like, oh my God, this is cool. And then we continued to do the videos. We did all of the trends. We did like all the early trends. So I was on there before the pandemic hit. And so it helped me to have some momentum. And then I did a whole series where I was like Trump hunting in OC. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, I was just like, I'm like in the savannah looking for Trump. Like it was just crazy stuff. I don't know. I was just very unhinged. And I think being unhinged helped. I would also post like 10 to 15, sometimes 20 videos a day. I was doing pop culture. I was doing like celebrity news. I would also had a catchphrase where I would say next. And I would yell at the end of every video to the point where when I'd go out, people would yell next. So I realized like, oh my God, there's like value in that.
Starting getting like noticed.
I was getting noticed. And then I had a client right around that time. Like we had it was right before the pandemic. I went and like someone came up to me at the red carpet and I was with a client. She wasn't that famous, but it was like, oh, I'm such a big fan. And she's like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you. And she's like, not you, him. And being the publicist, you're supposed to kind of hide. And then she got really pissed. And then my boss was annoyed, was like, why are you having fans come up to you? What are you doing on the, like, they didn't know anything about TikTok. So that's when I like started to realize, whoa, this is a thing. And then I started doing merch and then that was selling out. So it was kind of cool. Like, I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then people, I mean, in the beginning were like, you're old, you're weird. And then it took off because I literally was one of the oldest people on there. Because people hadn't, like, it was not 2021 where everyone got on it. I was shamed for my age. I was shamed for being weird. I mean, it was crazy. But it was engagement, so whatever.
But that was a pretty fast growth then for TikTok.
It was. I mean, I grew like so quick. I mean, I went from like a couple thousand views to millions. Every video I posted was getting millions. I mean, again, my followers weren't growing that much, but it like doubled within a month. So people were like, and then I posted that viral video. That helped a lot, obviously. But
yeah. At that point, you didn't have the podcast.
I didn't have the podcast yet. No. So I posted a video of my neighbor. So weird. So he was running and he was like shirtless and it was my next door neighbor. And then it got so viral that his sister had seen it and had told him. And he was like, why are you posting me? And then like he loved the attention he was getting. He got like all these dates out of it. So it was just really funny. Like, so that was the first video that hit. And then I started the podcast, I think towards the end of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to create a podcast?
Yeah, so I was doing Instagram lives. I haven't done a live in so long, but I was doing about sometimes like literally it sounds crazy now that it's 6 or 7 lives a day. So I was interviewing everyone. So I interviewed, I think at the end of 2022, probably 600 people.
So you were interviewing people on
Instagram Live.
Live Instagram.
Yeah, so looking at all the comments, I'd invite them, we'd talk, I'd interview them. So I interviewed everybody you can imagine. I mean, anyone that you like, I've interviewed. So like from reality shows, actors, everybody from every show. I just would GM people and they were bored. They're like, sure. And then some people would come back and then and then they started doing like, you could do like 4 people. And then I started doing that on YouTube. Like it was just, I was like, oh, let me just interview as many people. And then I got so good at it. Then this podcast network reached out and then I was able to interview like all of these people.
So that's kind of what kicked off the podcast.
Yeah, the lives
just
helped a lot.
interviewing people through live.
And it was like my friends at first. It was like, people would do like group hangouts during the pandemic. I essentially took that and I just started interviewing people I liked. And a lot of it was just sliding in their DMs being like, I'm a huge fan. Aren't you bored? That was my thing. I'd be like, aren't you bored? They're like, yeah, I am bored. I was like, you want to talk tomorrow? Like I was just like shameless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the name, the Take On, did you come up with that or someone help you with that?
I did. Because I was like, I want to take on like bigger topics. Initially, it started about like talking about different like political topics, but then it kind of transitioned more into like Bravo. Because I was like, why am I trying to be political when that's not natural to me? So I just went with what was natural. And I think that's really important because a lot of people now, I also did like social media classes and I had students and all that. And I would always tell, they're always like, well, I want to have 1 million followers. I'm like, for what reason? They don't know. Like you have to have a why and what's your like, I call it the come through. Like, what's your come through? Like, what's the point? Like, what are you going to get out of it? And people can't answer that. And if you don't know that, then you're not going to post the right content. So I always say, like, find out what like makes you tick. And for me, it was reality TV. I love it. I would watch it. I would do reaction videos. And then those celebrities would see it. Then I would just bring them on the podcast and we talk further. It was very easy. Like, it was an easy transition.
Well, so what kind of guests would you have on your podcast?
I've had like housewives, people from Perfect Match, Too Hot to Handle. I've had Broadway people. I've had like people I like, queer like drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. Any kind of reality show that I actually watch. Don't bring people on you don't watch because they're gonna know. Don't like. I hate when I watch podcasts. I'm like, you don't know who they are. Yeah. Like you're not asking the questions you should be asking. And that happens a lot with reality because people just want the click. So they like will invite a reality star over and they don't even ask them the right questions. Because I'm like, you've never watched an episode of their show, you know? So like if you're gonna do like something with someone, like watch what they, you know what I mean? Like know them.
For sure, yeah.
That's
I try to
important.
do my research when I have someone on.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let me just read up on them a little bit.
Like, yeah,
right? I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
But I mean, mostly it's been some friends that have been on my podcast.
Right.
But yeah, for example, like I don't know anything about you. This is the first time we meet, but I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thanks.
And we talked a little bit, so we got to know each other a little bit, and I'm learning a lot more now. And I have my notes here.
Your handy dandy notes.
But what topics would you discuss on your podcast? Is there any certain topics you would discuss, or was it just free form?
I think I initially like. No shade to your notes. I had a lot of notes too, but initially, and then I stopped doing the notes because around the second season, I was like, because I was like so focused on the notes, and then like the conversation would be going in a really cool direction. And a lot of because my press mind is always working because I obviously wanted, like I had connections with a lot of publications, so I wanted them to get stuff that was like clickbait. So like. I was like, oh, they were saying something clickbaity. And I was like, oh, let's talk about this. Because I was so focused on my notes instead of getting the like viral moment. So in the second season, I was able to get a lot more of those. Let the person kind of bury themselves, say all the wrong things, because that gets more publicity for the podcast, instead of being like, oh, let's cut there. Or like it's not perfect. Just let it be. And then they'll edit it. And it was always fine.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to that point where I don't have notes.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. This is a tough gig.
It's tough. It's tough.
And especially you have the cameras, the lights, and you're just like here in person.
I was in my room, so it was a little easier. Like I had there was no cameras. It was just like, well, there is a camera, but like it was like more just audio. Yeah. And it was in my room. It was like so easy, and I'd been doing it for so long that like I'd worked that muscle.
Yeah.
It's like anything. Like it's like exercising. You learn and you move forward.
Yeah. And how long did that podcast last?
3 seasons. So we had 3 seasons.
You go by seasons. So what is a season? Like how many episodes?
I had about
one season.
The first season was like 18 episodes, a lot. So I interviewed a lot of my friends, kind of like what you're doing, which is smart. And then I filled those in with celebrities. So it was like my friend, celebrity, my friend, celebrity. And a lot of the people that were on it, like Ariana Madix, who's on Vanderpump Rules, super famous now. Hannah Berner, super famous, like just did a Netflix special. So I'm not trying to say, oh, I invented, like I found them, but I have a good eye for talent. I was like, I like them. They're funny. I'm going to bring them on. Yeah. And so I think that helped too, because then people, when they got more famous, would re-listen to the episodes.
Yeah. Man, so I'm trying to just be better at this, but it's hard. Any advice that you'd give me? I mean, I'm new at this. So what kind of advice would you give me or give someone that's starting their podcast journey?
I think don't try to be like everyone else. I think everybody wants to be Joe Rogan. Great. Super successful, amazing. But if I had started and I was like, I'm gonna have 1 million followers on TikTok, I would have never done it. It's overwhelming. When you're at the bottom of the mountain, you're like, I'm never gonna make it. So it's better to just like set goals that are attainable. Let's do 5 episodes and then see how we feel. Like I also, it helped that I had another podcast with my best friend and it was in his house. It was very free form and it was very chill. And we sometimes record, sometimes we wouldn't. It was like, I learned a lot about like consistency from that. And I learned a lot about like, I made a lot of mistakes. I said the wrong thing and it got better. Like you get better, you know, and there was no stakes. Like also bring the stakes down. You don't need to like right off the bat go with a podcast network. I think people sometimes nowadays like are like, I want to be with this podcast network because it looks good. It's like, but are you ready for that?
Yeah. So you were with the network.
I was with the network the second time around. The first time it was just me and him in his house. Like,
okay.
Start like small.
Yeah.
Like people want to do everything so big. I'm like, just start small.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you want to start a podcast where you just want to be buddies or whatever.
Yes.
Just get a camera, just start, right?
Yes.
And just hit record.
Exactly.
Get a mic or maybe something just so it sounds good and start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many mics online. Like there's so many. There's so many lav mics. There's so many good. And there's so many editing softwares. You can even do Fiverr. You can hire someone, $20. They'll edit the stuff for you if you don't want to do that. Don't let the like technical stuff impede you. And obviously you have a lot of like skills
or
and video.
You can come to West Coast Creative Studio and we can do everything for you here.
Plug it. That's what I was gonna say. You have those talents. So like someone that can do that, that's bomb. Like then go with it. And you were able to like create this. But not everyone can do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a tough gig, man. Like I'm new at this and starting my own podcast has taught me a lot about podcasting because I have this studio, right? And I'm helping other creators with their podcast. But I'm like, man, what is it really like to have a podcast? So, and having my own podcast now, you're my 11th guest now.
Wow, 11?
Yeah.
That's quick.
Yeah, I know.
Look at you.
It's crazy. People want to come on my podcast.
I think it's just, you have a good vibe and I think you honestly want to, because I watched a lot of the videos, you honestly want to listen to people, you're engaged. And I listen to so many podcasts where people don't care about the guest. You can tell the guest was booked through a publicist. They were forced to be there to promoting their book, promoting their show. They don't want to be, nobody wants to be there. So that always doesn't read well. I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. Like you don't want to be there. Yeah. So when you're genuinely interested in people, and I always say, that's why I didn't have people like my producer would want to book people that I didn't like. And I'm like, I don't want to interview them.
Yeah.
I don't care if they have 1 million followers. I don't care about them. I'm not interested in them. So I don't want to interview them.
Yeah.
So that's another thing where it's like interview people you care about.
Yeah. That's why I like to start off my interviews with, their background and context. That way the viewers also get a little context of who you are and stuff. And I get that context as well.
Exactly.
And then we move forward from there.
Exactly.
But okay, so let's go back to your podcast. 3 seasons, 18 episodes each season, or would it vary?
So it kind of varies. I think the second season was like 15, and then I think the last season was like 10, because I just wasn't getting the returns. I wanted more brand deals, and I feel like the company was like pocketing a lot of the money, and that's kind of what they do. So I really should have like left at the second season, but I just wanted
the network. And how did the network work? So what do they do for you?
So they basically have a producer and they have a sound engineer and they book everything. And it's very professional because it's like the emails are going to that person's publicist or to that person directly. It's very organized in a way that like would have required me so much extra headache that I didn't want to deal with. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting. They promote it. But the thing is that it sometimes would get lost in the shuffle. And it didn't make sense. Like I'd have guests with millions of followers and then I get 500 views. That doesn't make sense. Or listens. And then someone else, like, so I feel like they didn't know how to correctly promote me. Yeah. And that's important. So when you're picking a network to really like think about, hey, are they able to promote it correctly?
Okay.
And they weren't, so.
Yeah.
But live and learn.
Yeah, I know. So then after that, what did you pivot after that? Because then you didn't do the podcast anymore, right?
I didn't do the podcast anymore. And then I had met a producer, I think probably, I want to say in January of 2020, I had like a little informational. And at that point, like, getting into Hollywood, I knew all the right people, but I was always on the back end. So I was always behind the camera, right? So now I'm trying to be on camera. It's a very different thing. Yeah. So I had an informational with her and I was pitching her a story about a group of gay friends kind of like looking, I don't know if you saw that on HBO Max. It's like gay friends living in San Francisco. I was like pitching a ensemble cast and she's like, wait, why are you pitching that when you're a gay Muslim comedian who like isn't out to his family? This is so much more interesting. Like, why aren't you pitching your own story? And I was like, I never really thought that I could do that. I thought I had to pitch like other stuff. And then that journey started with them. And so we pitched it to like Lionsgate, Apple TV, Peacock. I pitched for years. And then when the writer's strike happened, it fell apart. But then now I'm with a different production company. So I'm still pitching that. So I've essentially, again, that was just me pivoting. I emailed someone. I was like, can I consult on this gay Muslim character on a TV show? They were like, we're not going to pay you. I was like, I don't care. So then I met her with like all the team of writers. Again, see, like that's being humble. Like you don't go in being like, I want money, because they weren't going to hire me. I had no skills, no credits. So I go to this meeting. Then she introduced me to this producer. So you kind of never know what will happen in this town. A lot of people are like, well, I know my worth. I'm like, that's great. But I don't have any contacts. So how am I going to like, why would they pay me?
Yeah.
You know? So I got opportunities like that, which is cool.
Okay, cool. So then after that, did you get into comedy, or how did comedy come into your life? Or was that something, did you do comedy before that? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I did. So I started doing comedy in 2018. I was deep in the closet. I mean, everyone that meets me is like, oh, your parents obviously knew, but they're very religious. So for them, it wasn't like on their radar. Even if they knew, they were like, we're not talking about it. They're very Muslim. They're very religious. So the rest of my family knew, everybody knew. I have a very gay Instagram. I mean, I was hosting, events at the LGBT center. I was like wearing wigs and like sashaying around town. I mean, everyone knew. So I was doing stand-up. And then that stand-up, my sister, someone at the mosque that my parents started in Orange County, sent it to her and was like, is this your brother? And it was like me talking about sucking dick, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, like, so that kind of propelled me to like I was doing a lot of stand-up, but then I had to come out to my parents. So like that whole journey is basically like, I document that a lot in my stand-up.
And how was your journey when your parents found out? Like, what were some of the ups and downs? How did you overcome all that?
It's a process. I mean, any day now, they're going to be okay with it. But we'll see. I mean, listen, it's a process. I think for them, it's like something that they're not used to. It's not something that they can wrap their minds around. But they're more upset about, honestly, it's funny because you would think they'd be more upset about me being gay, but they're more upset about me being public. So when I've been with my dad and like people will approach and say hi, and he's like, how do they know you? They want to be very private. And they're very like immigrant family. They're like, why do you want to be public? Like even when I did a talk show in Canada, and it was like, it's international. I went there. It was like everywhere. It was like people were reposting. And my parents were like, why were you on TV? Like they just don't like it. So they're never going to like it. So I think I've just had to kind of accept that. And obviously the story that's going to be about my life, that's going to be like, they're kind of in it. We'll see where the dice lay, because I don't really know what's going to happen with that.
You don't think they'll ever accept it fully?
I don't think so.
Man,
they've accepted me, but I don't know if they're going to accept my career and my choices about being so public. And especially with social media, they're very anti,
Yeah. So how did like that shape your life to where you are now, like going through all that?
I think it makes me more humble. I mean, I think that in a town of a lot of really big egos, I'm never worried about like putting my sleeves up, helping out, doing an event, like helping a friend, going to a showcase. Like if I know someone, I'll help you. Like I think that energy, that openness, I think I get it back tenfold because, again, I have no credits in this town, but I've met with producers that have like agents at CAA and they're like, I want to work with you. That's just like, that's not luck. That's me like having a good energy and putting it out there. So I think you can get a lot by being like good. And I think a lot of people now stockpile and gatekeep. And I'm like, it's going to get you anywhere. Yeah. People are so weird. I'm not going to introduce you to my agent. I'm not going to. And I'm like, okay. But I get a better meeting than you without an agent.
Yeah.
I'm in the same meeting with you. I'm in the same pitch fest. I'm in the same thing. It's like, I don't know. I think it doesn't say a lot about this industry where people gatekeep, but that's just not me.
Yeah. And where do you perform? How many like shows do you do? Do you do a lot of them?
I haven't done a show in a while. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a show coming up in August. I think I've just been busy with so many other things. And I think you can really perform so well on social media that sometimes I'm like, do I want to go and get up and go to a show and like deal with hecklers? And I can be funny in other ways. But, I used to do a lot. I used to do like 6 or 7 open mics, sometimes a day. I mean, I'm like a machine. I'm like very Gemini. So it's like, I'm either fully committed or I'm like, I'm over it. Like, so I would do all these shows and I have, Comedy Store and I've done Laugh Factory and I've done all these like improv and it's like cool, but it's like, to what end? Yeah. Right? Like for me, I'm like, I can be funny in all iterations. And I think for me, content is king. And I'm like, the content that I get out of a stand-up is cool. I can get like 1 or 2 clips, but I can just endlessly make people laugh in different ways. Because I just do reaction videos now. I just literally do nothing. I stand next to a video and just make faces and people love it.
Yeah. And
that requires such little work.
Stand-up is something you have to really practice and really be 100% in there to get better at it, right?
You do. You have to constantly be working on it. I mean, I don't know if like I could do a special. I mean, I could probably do the longest show I've done is like 20 minutes. I can do a 20 or 30 minute set. I mean, I'm pretty good because I have all the jokes lined out, but like you have to practice that. Like even huge celebrities like what is it? Nikki Glazer was like doing all these open mics before the roast because you have to work at it. Even it's like kind of like a muscle. So if you, it's like content. If you stop posting for like a year, you're going to be like, it's so hard. But when you have it in your, like, it's like a hamster wheel, it's much easier.
It's like anything in life, really, I think, right? But you have to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Practice.
All the time.
And it's like fearful too. I think a lot of people are scared of like going up on stage and just bombing. Right?
But you do bomb. Like, even if you're like Jerry Seinfeld, you're going to bomb. And that's the thing I love about comedy. It literally makes no discretion. You could be like the most famous comedian and your set sucks. It's just, the audience sucks. The energy's gone. I've heard that. I've been so many places where I'm like, this joke was so funny yesterday. And today it's like, the wind is out of the room.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Is there one moment where you bombed that you remember? You're like, oh man. And how did that moment help you get better at comedy?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I bombed a lot. I've tried to block a lot of those. One time I almost fell off stage. That was probably the worst. Yeah, I almost like, because the stages are kind of sometimes small and it's like bright, whatever. And I literally almost fell off stage. And I think that not falling, I think I learned a lot from, because I was like, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen? Even if you fall, who cares? Because I realized that like even with like public speaking or like I've done like speeches for thousands of people or like whatever, I'm like, that's people's biggest fear. It's literally like taxes, death, public speaking. So if I can get up here and do it, like F you for like being a heckler, get up here. One time this guy was heckling me. I was like, you can come up. He's like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm like, then don't fucking heckle me.
Yeah.
Because like you don't get up here then. Most people can't do it. So I've realized like there's a lot of like pride in that as well. Like I can get up here and even if because I've also realized like when you're naturally funny, which I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so funny. But when you naturally are able to be situationally funny and use the room to your advantage, even if I forget all the fucking jokes, I can hit it in that room making fun of people just in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's funny too.
Do you think comedy comes natural to you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it's trauma. It's trauma. You have, like, they literally have like this like round table they do with like all these comedians for like mental health, and they're all fucked up. And I've gone to that before, and I'm laughing because I'm like, and it's not funny that we've had trauma, but that makes you funny. Because a lot of people are like, why am I not funny? I'm like, you haven't been through enough. Like, I'm gay, Muslim, Persian in America, like dealing with a lot of bullshit. Like, it makes you funny because you have to learn to be like, all right, like whatever,
you have to be able to make fun of yourself as well, right?
Don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah. Can you maybe give us one of your jokes?
Sure.
Let's hear it.
Sure.
Let's do it.
One of my favorite. I mean, my dad is like so funny. It's just like even thinking about it makes me laugh. So he's just like, he's so serious that it makes it funny. So first of all, his name is Jafar. Hilarious. Like I said, he, Aladdin, all of that. So I remember like, he was also very accepting when I first came out. Like, again, he doesn't like all the public stuff, but he was like very excited. He was like, okay, can we change it? I said, no. And then he's like, okay, I accept you. So like a month later, I ring, and he's calling and he's like, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. And he's like, are you still gay? And I'm like, yes, like I'm still gay. It doesn't go away. Like in his mind, I think he really thought it was like a virus, that it was just gonna go away and that like we were just gonna go back to normal. And he was like, okay, I gotta run. That's like, he like wasn't, like that's all he wanted. And I just thought that was so funny and so endearing. And like people love him at my stand-up. Like people will ask about Jafar. And I mean, I secretly put him on my Instagram. He doesn't love it. He went viral on TikTok once because he was screaming about the universal remote and people loved him. They were like, he's like a national treasure. So I think it's like people that don't know they're funny are sometimes the funniest.
Is he on Instagram to TikTok?
Oh, hell no. He hates all that stuff. Hates all that stuff. Like he's like a typical immigrant dad that's on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Do you have any other siblings?
I do have a younger sister.
Okay, so it's you and your younger sister. How's your younger sister?
She's 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does she think of your career, your comedy, and all the stuff you do now?
I mean, she's like accepting, but she's also very private. She's like a writer. She's like lives her own life. Like she travels a lot. Like she's very like different. We're just like very different. Like she would rather people not talk to her. And I'm like, hi. Like I'm that person. So it's a very different energy, but it's cool like to have someone from my family that's like really like kind of like loves my career. And I think she like understands that even though I'm funny, I also like educate people. And I've gotten like hundreds of DMs of people being like, I feel seen by you. You make me laugh. You got me through the pandemic. I think there's nothing better than someone messaged me. They were like, I was alone in the pandemic in New York and I was like suicidal, but I would watch you every day. And like, there's nothing better than that. Yeah. Like whenever I feel like, oh, I have so many hate comments or I got this job rejected or I didn't get this producer doesn't like me. I'm like, that's cool. Like even that one person, like that's enough.
Yeah. You seem like very different from your family. What was it that made you kind of just be out there more and want to be in front of the TV and be a host and just kind of be public to the public? What made you want to do that?
I mean, I think I saw like how private they were. And I feel like when you're so private, like then you hide a lot of your emotions and a lot of what you're going through. And I did that really well. Like I always joke, like the better my Instagram story, the more depressed I was. And I was like living my life and everyone wanted to meet me and it was like really depressed. And I think the more open you are about stuff like that, you actually end up being like vulnerability is a strength. And I saw that, like, I was like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like, I mean, I was closeted in so many ways, but closeted with my emotions. So I had to come out and just be like, I'm going to have emotions. I'm going to be real and I'm going to take up space. And I also love to perform. I love to do music videos with my sister. We would do like Ace of Base, like remakes. I mean, we were just typical kids with no internet. When you don't have internet, I feel like you're so much more creative. Like we would hire people from the neighborhood to like play like, walk on roles. Like we were ridiculous, but I feel like a lot of kids now, it's a lot more like you're kind of like solitaire, which is fine. But like I feel like that made me more of a performer. And I'm also a Gemini and I naturally need a lot of attention. I have so many personalities and it's a lot.
And so you're an activist.
Yeah.
For the LGBT community, right?
I try. I mean, listen, no one's perfect. I have my moments where I'm like, I don't want it. And I took that on a lot. And for a lot of people out there who are activists, I cannot change the world. What I can do is I can change your one person's perspective. Like I've had people message me and be like, oh, I was always scared of Muslims, or I was really scared of like gay people. And I thought they were going to like hit on me. And then I see you and you're not predatory. You're not scary. You're fun. You're funny. So if I can change people's perspective in that way, that's better than shoving down their throat. Everyone has the same rights. Yeah. Does that really make an impact or just like being funny? I think you can, if you make people laugh, they're kind of disarmed. And then I can be like, oh, like gay people still need your help, like whatever.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you faced as a content creator and activist throughout your career?
Well, I don't get the same opportunities. So like if there's a panel, there's people with less followers that are going to get a brand deal. If there is a white gay creator, they're going to get better brand deals for Pride. Like, and again, a lot, and I know that I like can pass for white, but at the end of the day, I'm still Amir Yas. Like that's not going to change. And I think that I am sometimes provocative with what I post. And I've had brands be like, okay, if you delete these 5 things, we'll work with you. But I'm not going to do that because, and this could be tone deaf, but I grew up in a family where money wasn't an issue. So I don't work from that perspective. I'm not like, I need this deal because I need to pay my rent. I don't try to work that way because then I feel like you kind of become a friend to everyone, so you're a friend to no one. So I want to have like ideals, and when I work with brands, I want to know that they're doing all the things outside of Pride that like are still supporting queer content or like still like, so it's a journey for me in that way. But yeah, I mean, they limit my content on TikTok. They said that they were trying to protect me from bullying, but then my content was, and then if I responded to like a really hateful comment, they would take my video down. It was just, some of that stuff just felt unfair sometimes.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone else that's looking to use their social media as an activist?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're going to lose some deals. Like if you want to be provocative and you want to make, it sucks that even saying that, like mentioning that like you're pro-choice is all of a sudden provocative because I feel like that's annoying like that, but that's what it is. Like you want to work with a brand that's mainly in the Midwest that they might not want that. So, and a lot of micro influencers, like anyone with less than 10,000 followers, you can make good money, but you just have to be do you want to be curated or do you want to be authentic? It's a decision. Like I decided early on that I wanted to be authentic and it's not curated. So my content is not curated. I'm talking about gay people. I'm talking about Black rights. I'm talking about like memes. I'm talking about Bravo. It's not like clear, but that's my choice. Like, so if you want something curated, yeah, of course you're probably going to get better brand deals. It's more curated.
Is there someone that inspires you, has influenced you to be the person you are now, whether it's like a TV host, celebrity, or even a comedian?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I try not to look at other people for inspiration because then I start comparing myself and I'm like, oh, I didn't get there and I didn't do what they wanted. And, that's kind of hard. But, I have a friend, Tehran, who's like half Black, half Persian. And he hosts a lot of mics in LA and he's like very funny, great comedian. He's like, he made it look easy. Like he's like being authentic, being yourself. You can still work. You can still have jobs. And I've been so fearful that I'm going to lose opportunities because I'm authentic about one thing. And I'm like, no, I'll find the right producers because the right people will get me and not think I'm too much. And I spent so much time being like, oh, I'm too much. Or now I'm like, team too much. Great. You should be fucking too much. Yes. Like, because then it's boring. Like I'm not going to be another person that's like posting stuff that just I wouldn't want to watch. Like, I think the shit I post is funny. And I know that sounds really like egotistical, but I laugh. I'm like, that was funny that I found that video, that I had that reaction. Like, you know, it's funny. Like, this woman was wearing orange and called her traffic cone. And I think it's funny. Like, people were laughing. I'm like,
do you think you need to watch what you say? Because, you know, I think being authentic is probably the best way to go about it if you're going to be public. I think people relate to that. But do you feel like sometimes you got to watch certain things that you can't say a few things?
You have to be aware of it. I mean, listen, I always say, you don't need to learn anyone's pronouns. You can be an asshole. Just be an asshole. You want to be an asshole? That's fine. I just choose to not, again, pick that kind of punch down. But sometimes, you know, like even this woman, like I said, looks like a traffic cone, and now people are saying I'm Islamophobic. I'm like, honey, I'm Muslim. Like, we're not. But I respond to when people kind of come from my character, I will respond. And I try not to get involved. And then my followers will usually jump in and then take over and kind of assassinate the person. So I just let them take control. So I think it's just like, I don't know, it's like a fine line. There's people that get away with it. If you're going to be offensive, you better be fucking funny. Like when Nikki Glaser was like roasting and saying funny shit about like Tom Brady and the jiu-jitsu fighter, and like, you know, he's probably like killing her pussy, and it was really like extreme, but it was funny. She owned it.
She crushed it.
She crushed it. And she didn't back off and say like that was too inappropriate, or she just owned it. So I think if you're going to do it, you kind of have to do it. Like otherwise it's better saying, oh, I don't like trans people. That's not funny.
Yeah.
That's just not funny.
You definitely have to be funny if you're going to go that route.
Yeah. And again, even if you want to say, I don't like trans, you're still going to have an audience. There's still an audience for everything. Like I've been to a lot of these conferences. There's an audience for every joke, for every material, every content. I just personally feel like I don't feel the need.
Yeah.
That's just not my kind of content.
Yeah. So looking back at your journey, what is something that you're most proud of achieving? Let's think of like that moment. I'm curious about this.
Well, I hope that better things are coming. So I feel like I think
there's always better things coming.
I hope there's better things coming. I think, okay, so I used to like follow the Socials TikTok, like the show I did in Canada. And they're like, it's kind of like The View, but Canadian. And I would always like their stuff. I would always interact with them. And they were like, they followed me at one point. And like, I mean, I thought it was such a long shot that I would never get it. So I'd emailed them like, I think a year before, like, and I emailed them one of their like emails they had, no response. So then I get an email like 9 months later. I forgot that I emailed them. So when I opened the email, my email was right above their email being like, we would love to invite you. Like, we think you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and they never saw that. I don't think they ever saw that email. It's like one of those like help at whatever BS. So I was like, oh my God. Like, it's like when celebrities post like a tweet and then they like, it comes true. Like, I feel like, and then I was on it, and then I was on this live show, and it was like, and I had no idea what it was. Like, and I think sometimes that's better to not know what, I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was going to be like everywhere in Canada. And I was going to be stopped constantly of people being like, oh my God, I saw you on The Social today. So I didn't realize it was such a big show. Like and so I think that was a moment where I was like, oh, they put me up, like I got flown out. Like, it was so cool. I got paid for it. Like, it just felt really like official.
Did you feel like a celebrity?
I did.
That needed a publicist?
I got like a driver. Yeah. Like, it was cool. Like, I was like, oh my God, I could be my own publicist. It was cool. Like, it was cool to have like a driver, and like, I felt important. And
yes,
you know,
that sounds like something to be proud of.
It was
sure.
Cool.
So how long did you do that?
So I just did one guest host spot. They were trying to find a permanent host, and I didn't get it. But like, it's a show with women. I knew it was a long shot. But even the fact I was the only guy they ever had on. So I thought that was cool. Like, they gave me a chance, and honestly, I killed it. It was funny. I was like, and it was live TV. I've never done live TV. You can't cuss. You can't like deviate. You can't touch. Like, they had all these mics. You can't touch. And I do this a lot. Can't do any of that. And I crushed it. It was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of your future goals? Like, is there any goals that you have in mind that you want to achieve, let's say within a year, 2 years?
I mean, when people think of a gay Muslim, I want them to think of me, right? When they want, and I think that's happened in the podcast world when people need like a gay Muslim, or they want to talk about religion and sexuality. Like, I'm one of the few DMs that are going out, which I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I found a lane for me. And again, I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I do identify culturally as Muslim, and I even did Ramadan like this year. Like, so I get it. People are like, you're not even that religious. I get it. But I made a lane for myself, and I don't regret doing that. And it's not false, because like, I do believe a lot of the stuff about being a Muslim. So I think it's like finding your lane. So I think for me, I want to continue to build on that. I'm working on a really cool like gay animals docuseries. So there's actually 2 that came out this year, but I've been working on one for a while now.
Gay animals?
Yeah. So there's 450 species of animals that are that will like go back and forth, or will be like essentially, I mean, I guess that's like bisexual, but like they'll like mate and then they'll like be with a male partner, or they'll change gender. So like lionfish can go back and forth. So they don't actually need a partner to procreate. So it's very interesting. And a lot of that I think is cool too, because a lot of people say being gay is a choice. Not a choice. I'm gonna look right at the camera, but I think that proves it, because animals don't have choice. So it's another example. So it's cool. So that I'm really excited about. So I was working on with Nat Geo with that and like Animal Planet, but now we're trying to find another route. So that I really want to do. I think that's really cool. I want to continue to do comedy. Just keep growing. I mean, I would love a comedy special at one point. I think I think it'd be so cool. I mean, we've had a Muslim like have his own, like Rami Malek, but it'd be really cool to have like a gay Muslim. And just have that visibility, because I just think that a lot of people just assume, because a lot of Muslim countries are very like homophobic and it's not safe, that we don't exist, but we exist in every corner of the Middle East. So we're not like, and there's beautiful pride parties that are underground. There's drag queens underground. Like, it's really cool. There's a lot of cool stuff. Like Vice does a lot of documentaries around that. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff in the world, and I just want to educate people, but also make them laugh. Yeah. That's really important to me.
So comedy, where do you see your comedy career going? You say you want a special, and you say you have about 20 minutes, like ready to go if you had to.
Yeah.
So for the comedy, like, do you feel like you need to stay here, or is that something maybe you can do somewhere else? Do you like to travel and do comedy other places?
Yeah, I'm open to it. I mean, I've always wanted to do my friend did like a college route, which was really fun, because it's like the comedy is a little bit more risque, because it's like younger kids and they're Gen Z, and like it's more fun. So, and I want to get paid. Like, I've done so much free shit for exposure. And like, that's another thing. Stop doing stuff for exposure. It's not going to pay your rent. It's not going to pay your health insurance. Like, you need to sometimes, again, once you like, I feel like I've done my time. Like, I've done my time. I'm like, I deserve to be paid what I'm just, deserved. Yeah. So I think continue to like work on that comedy and try to get to a place. I mean, I wanted to do Just for Laughs, but they just like shuttered this year. So that's a big like network to like get out there with comedy. Just keep working on my craft. I think that's the number one thing you can do. And if this show sells about my life, then I think if the show does well, it's easy to like parlay that into a comedy special. I want it to be natural and organic. I don't want to force it. And I don't want to do something when I'm not ready, because I feel like it would be cool if I, like, when I turned 40, I did a comedy special. Give myself 2 years. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
So have you heard of Kill Tony?
I haven't, but you were telling me about it.
Yeah,
so I was into it.
Yeah, so I think maybe you should go to Texas,
Austin,
nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Sign up for this show, get in the bucket.
I'm down.
Maybe you get pulled, and it's a great show. You know, we were talking about it before the podcast.
Yeah,
I love watching that show. You get to like discover so many different comedians. Cool. You get to see people bomb and get roasted.
I love a roast.
Hilarious,
and I can take a lot. I have like alligator skin. I like love a roast. I used to roast at the Comedy Store, and like people would cry. I mean, you can go below the belt. It's fun. I mean, roasting is fun because it's an opportunity, and a lot of drag queens roast. Like, that's a natural. And like a lot of gay people are very sassy, and we kind of roast each other. It's, again, trauma makes you funny. So you learn how to kind of go below the belt. It's fun.
Yeah, I think roasting is hilarious. Like, I think it's fun. People are so good. I mean, I think you have to be good at roasting. Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah. It's not an easy skill. It's like
you have to be super witty.
Yeah. And even celebrities, like Tom Brady does not need to like subject himself to a roast, but people enjoy it because it kind of like something about like there's a moment when you're being roasted where you're like, I'm gonna cry. Because it's like kind of too real. And then you're like, I'm not gonna cry, but then you laugh, and then it's like funny because you can take it. It's like funny. It's good. I think a roast is good. It keeps you humble.
It does. Yeah. So before we wrap up, where can the listeners find you and follow you on your journey?
Yeah. So Amir Yas Official, spelled OFFICIAL. A lot of people can't spell, so like, we can't find you. I started that when I was like really ridiculous because I wish I could drop the official. But anyways, so both on Instagram and TikTok, and I respond to DMs.
Yeah.
As long as you're not nasty.
There you
go. Yeah.
DM them.
Don't be nasty.
Don't be nasty. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. It's the same Amir Yas Official. So, but my YouTube's like very lacking. I think it requires so much work.
It does.
Yeah. Upkeep.
Yeah. So any other final words that you have for the audience?
Final word, like just, I don't know, make people laugh around you. That's like the first step. People always want to be a comedian on a stage and I want a Netflix special. Do the people around you think you're funny? Like, that's more important to me. Because like those are the real people in your life. So like make the people around you laugh. That's the first step. I don't know.
That's great advice. Dude, well, thank you for coming to the studio and being on my podcast. Guys, make sure to follow Amir and subscribe to my channel, follow westcoastcreativestudio.com, check us out, and book yourself a session for your podcast here in studio. And I want to thank you one more time for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
You're welcome. That was so fun.